legalization. We want to do that in a way that responds to the history, to the violence of the drug war, to the wages of violence against people of color, against low-income people because of marijuana prohibition. And we waged an incredibly powerful campaign this legislative session in 2019. And yet we did not win passage of the Marijuana Regulation and Taxation Act, which is held by champion Senator Liz Kruger and Crystal People-Stokes in the Assembly. So we have come here today to say to the legislature, to say to Governor Cuomo that 2020, we have to prioritize the legalization of marijuana and robust and massive reinvestments in the hardest hit communities. We have to do this the right way. We have an opportunity in this state to be a model for what it looks like to repair the harms of the failed racist and classist drug war. So today, we have some speakers gathered with us who are going to talk to us about this issue. So first, I would like to bring up New York City Public Advocate Jumaane Williams.
Most of all, thank y'all for making sure this stays on the front burner of what we need to get done. As we mentioned, we did not get this done last year. Part of me says if we couldn't have done it right, we should have waited. So I want to make sure not only that we get it done this year, because we have provided the tools necessary for a true blue state senate, of which the state senator Liz Kruger has been, but we have a governor that claims he wants to get it done, and I believe we have an assembly that will pass it as well. So there's no reason, except for pure political will, that this is not done. And if we're going to do it, we have to do it right. And the people behind this are going to make sure that happens. This is not going to be another passage where the same people get rich off the backs of black and brown communities. If we are going to do this, which we must do it, we must first start off with expunging all of the records of people who have records because of marijuana usage. We have to make sure that we make a way for those folks who have been most affected with marijuana to have access to ability to sell it. That means they have to have access to learn how and access to seed capital. For some reason, if you look a certain way, you could walk in, get millions of dollars, lie about WeWork, and you get a whole bunch of money. But if you're black and brown, currently they say if you have a criminal record, you can't sell marijuana. That's not going to work. We want to make sure that these communities are made whole. We want to make sure if you're now saying what you should be, that marijuana is legal, the same communities are not hurt once more. There's no excuse this year, Governor Cuomo, the state senator who's here, and of course the Assembly. Governor Cuomo, anytime he wants to get something done, he gets it done. If he's saying one thing and it doesn't get done, he wasn't telling the truth. We are not going to go another session without marijuana justice passing both houses of the legislature and the governor signing it into law. I am tired of us saying that we are a progressive state and a progressive city and not doing progressive things. We don't need to follow on this, we need to lead. And I'm happy the city council passed a piece of legislation so that no one can test for THC as a barrier for employment. Yes. So I'm excited about that. But we got to clean it up because there's some careers that were exempted to get the bill passed. But they shouldn't be exempted either. If you don't test for alcohol, no need to test for marijuana. We want marijuana justice, and we want it now. Thank you so much. Appreciate everybody. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And next we have our next speaker, who has carried this bill, who has put in the work to make sure that New York State's government reflects the needs and the demands of its people. And that is none other than New York State Senator Liz Kruger.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Well, Jumaane pretty much said all the things I want to highlight for you. I'm incredibly proud of the bill that I carry with many of my colleagues in the Senate, that I carry with Crystal People-Stokes, the majority leader of the Assembly, African-American woman from Buffalo. We have stayed side by side in our commitment that this is an issue of economic fairness to Black and brown communities, to expunging the records of people who got caught up in the drug wars for doing something, frankly, no different than the white kids in my district have been doing forever and ever, in making sure that when we build a new legal economic engine that can assure jobs for people in all communities, with a focus on the communities that were done the most harm from the drug wars. And Jumani's absolutely right. My bill includes a commitment of both technical assistance, capital money startup, and priorities in licensing to make sure that the people who have an opportunity to go into the legal marijuana business in our state are the people who've been locked out of so many economic opportunities that others may have, that ironically they don't have because we gave them records for doing the things when they were 18, 20, and 22 that everybody else's kids were doing also. So we need to do this right. And that means we need the governor to agree to the fundamentals of the legislation. Crystal and I have the support of our colleagues of making sure it's not just legalizing marijuana, opening up an opportunity for 5 big companies to come into New York and take over everything, and then raise tax revenue. Now, of course, I'm in government. I want tax revenue, but I don't want to price legal marijuana above what's already out there on the streets, because I want people to stop using illegal marijuana. I want people not to be going behind the dispensary to buy the illegal stuff that may not be pure or what they think they're buying in the back alley. I want them to go to the stores and buy, or there might be delivery services and buy legal, but that means we can't overprice this, so we can't get overly excited about new tax revenue. It's important, but it's not the critical issue. It is the expungement of records, the changing of the criminal laws, the opportunities in communities that have been harmed for decades and decades and decades, and of course the opportunity for new actual economic development in New York State. And you already heard that this is a very popular bill throughout the state. You know who likes this bill? Farmers. Farmers are really excited about this bill, both for legalized marijuana and for regulation of the hemp CBD industry, because it opens up all kinds of new opportunities for them in areas of the state that are really suffering, that you and I might not go and visit all the time. So they are very interested in expansion of agricultural opportunities. There are opportunities for production and manufacture of products that are made with cannabis and CBD. There is so much more we can do with medical marijuana in the state. Yes, we have a program, but it's one of the more limited programs in the country, and there are so many more people who could get the help they need if they could have access to affordable medical marijuana, because you know what we're learning from other states? Their opioid use drops dramatically when people have access both to medical marijuana and for legal recreational marijuana. So you see a drop in your opioid addiction, your opioid overdoses, and there is research going on in the world showing that cannabis products offer solutions in the healthcare world to far more diseases than we even understand in this country, because we have this ridiculous law that says doctors aren't even allowed to study it or do research, because we are spreading continued false information about the dangers of the product. I'm not telling people that I want you to all go out and use cannabis. I don't use it. I haven't used it since I was 19. I don't plan on using it again. But I'm telling you, the research shows it's less dangerous than alcohol. It's less dangerous than most drugs prescribed by doctors, pretty much all drugs, and even tobacco, which we know kills you. There's no other purpose for tobacco except to kill you once it gets you addicted and takes your money, thank you. And yet, we don't go after people for that. And so what are we doing in the 21st century? just like Jumani, I know that we have the ability to pass it in both houses. We need the governor to stay strong in his verbalized commitment to get it done. I was recently with him at his weed summit with 3 or 4 other staff, and everybody was talking about getting it done this year, and there is no reason for New York not to be the first one of those 4 states to get it done. So I'm committed. I know you're all committed. Thanks Start Smart and all of the activists involved with that campaign who have stood side by side with me and my staff and other legislators trying to get this done for years. And let's get it done this year. Thank you. Okay.
Melissa Moore from Drug Policy Alliance.
Thank you, Start Smart Coalition. Everybody who's here, we appreciate you. Everything that you've done in this fight. So we're here today, as folks have already said, to talk about the need for marijuana justice in New York. And we know that this is a pivotal moment. There's tons of movement, both in the New York State legislature around this issue. There has been for years, thanks to the leadership of Senator Kruger and Majority Leader Peoples-Stokes, and also movement at the federal level right now with the MORE Act moving through the Judiciary Committee yesterday. It's the first time that a bill that would actually deschedule marijuana and also address the harms that have been done to communities has been moved through at the House level, which is enormous. And that comes simultaneously with former Mayor Bloomberg over the weekend trying to do a reversal on his stance on stop and frisk. And this comes, he actually had the nerve to do this in Brooklyn, in the city where there was the marijuana arrest crusade for decades. Hundreds of thousands of New Yorkers were ensnared in the criminal legal system because of stop and frisk policies, because of low-level marijuana enforcement that has been racist to its core for decades. And it's impossible for us to hear the words out of Mayor Bloomberg's mouth or any other elected official, anybody else in this state, talking about establishing a legal marijuana market, which actually he's not even for ending prohibition yet, which is problematic. But all of us here who are talking about what it would be to legalize marijuana in New York need to ground that entire conversation in addressing the harms that have been done to communities. First and foremost, that has to be the North Star, our bright line within this entire conversation. We cannot move forward when families have been torn apart, when people have been banned from employment, when people have been kicked out of housing, and that legacy of harm continues to this day. Just because we legalize and actually turn to a new page in our playbook at the state level doesn't automatically address all of those things. The expungement bill that went through at the end of last legislative session and took effect this summer is a good start. It's important that it's automatic, that people do not have to pay for lawyers to get their records expunged for the lowest level of marijuana offenses. But we know that we need more. We know that that was a start, and there has to be an effort to be as comprehensive in our marijuana legalization policies as the harm that has been done. And this is not a single instance of harm. We know that this has caused generational wealth gaps in communities, that this has prevented people from being able to live the lives that they would otherwise be able to live, has prevented people from achieving the sorts of successes that they would otherwise be able to have. There's no way to go back and, with a magic wand, take all of that away. But if we are intentional about the way that we legalize in New York, if we ground all of our policies in making sure that there are license opportunities available for people from communities that have been impacted, that folks below a certain income threshold have the first opportunities to be able to participate in the legal market, and that there are supports for them, like an incubator program, like low and zero interest loans that the public advocate spoke about, other ways that folks get technical assistance and legal counsel to be able to participate in this new industry. That's absolutely vital to the success here in New York. And that is not one and the same as community restitution. They're two separate channels, both of which are vitally important. And when we talk about community restitution, that means actually directing the tax revenue that's going to come in from this new legal market that's been projected up to $1 billion at the state and local level once the market is achieved. That has to be directed in significant proportions to the communities on whose backs we arrived at this moment. It's not enough to just say we're legalizing, we're moving forward in this state. We have to do this the right way. We have to do this the smart way, and we will accept nothing less than marijuana justice.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to hand it back to Juwanza.
Thank you, Melissa. I really appreciate that.
We've been pretty clear. Well, the communities have been pretty clear of what they want to see when we talk about marijuana legalization. This is a social justice issue for us. This is a criminal justice issue for us. This is not simply a marijuana issue. And it is very important that every single aspect of the work that we're doing is being considered. We will not support a half-assed plan when it comes to the work we need to do when it comes to marijuana legalization. We're talking about, of course, legalizing it in the first place, but second, allowing for economic opportunities to actually almost exclusively be in Black and brown communities, to Black and brown business owners. That we talk about the fact that we've jailed or arrested or given criminal charges mostly to Black and brown young men here in the city of New York, and that justice be brought to them as well, and that their records be expunged and completely sealed, and that we recognize the fact that we made a mistake as a city in persecuting poverty and persecuting Black and brown people as we traditionally do. That's what I'm going to stick to right now. Again, we want to be very clear about the comprehensive nature of the work we want to do. We're not half-stepping this, and neither should the state government when it moves forward in its process to figure out a way to legalize this. They've already half-stepped congestion pricing. They have half-stepped tenant rights in the state, and we don't want that to be the case for the justice that we need to see here when it comes to the legalization of marijuana. So thank you all for your work. Really appreciate you guys. And anything you need from me, I'll be present. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Reynoso. We really appreciate it.
There will always be consequences if we do not legalize this plant. So next I want to bring up Eli Northrup from Bronx Defender Services.
Good afternoon, everybody. We all know that marijuana is legal for white people. The war on marijuana, the war on drugs, has been a war on people of color. The racial disparities in arrests have demonstrated that, and this war is not over. Now, I want to thank the legislature for passing the decriminalization, the expungement bills, but there's still so much left to be done. Those bills only address the lowest level offenses. There's still thousands and thousands of people who have arrest records, who have convictions for marijuana, and will continue to have those. And those convictions have consequences. They have consequences in immigration court. They have consequences for education, for housing. They have consequences in family court. And those consequences haven't been solved by decriminalization or expungement bills. Those will be solved by full legalization. And that's what we need. Comprehensive, full legalization. Right now, officers today in the Bronx are searching people, harassing people, stopping people because of the odor of marijuana. This needs to stop. The MRTA would close that loophole. It would stop that harassment. Not only that, it would provide for community investment, equity and opportunity for licensing, things that only full legalization can do. So this fight is not over. And I just want to be clear also, people are being deported. ACS is testing mothers on hospital beds and taking their children from them because of marijuana tests. Families are being separated. So while lawmakers may not all feel a sense of urgency about this, they may feel like it's not affecting them. They have privilege. But we know, we see how this affects people on a daily basis. There's urgency to this fight. There's urgency. We need to demand legalization in 2020. We can't wait because people are being affected every day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have Anthony Posada with us?
So good afternoon. My name is Anthony Posada. I'm from the Community Justice Unit of the Legal Aid Society. And what do we want?
Justice!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Justice!
When do we want it?
Now!
And if we don't get it?
Shut it down!
If we don't get it?
Shut it down!
I want to make two things absolutely clear. The first one is this. the human cost of waiting for marijuana legalization is too high. The second one is this: nobody here was fooled into believing that marijuana decriminalization is marijuana justice, okay? That was not a fix. It is not justice when you hear things such as what Eli was bringing up, because as public defenders, we still see all of the injustices happening. Mothers separated from children, that is not justice. People being held in detention and possibly deported for marijuana, that is not justice. If decriminalization has shown us anything, is what we have known since the 1970s, which is that marijuana enforcement in New York is racist. Black and brown bodies are the ones who have suffered the brunt of this prohibition. What we need is to address the black and brown harms. We need to address everything that has happened into these communities by prioritizing investment of marijuana revenue into these communities. We do not need more fines and fees, which our clients cannot afford. We do not need any more arrests, which ruin people's lives. We do not need more officers in the subway. We need marijuana justice, and we will continue to demand marijuana justice, and we will come here and tell Albany for as long as it takes for us to have it, because we need to make it clear that our communities have suffered and that they must be the ones prioritized to benefit from legalization. So the time for Albany to act is now. Marijuana justice is something that we will continue to call for, because the human cost of not having that is too damn high. So Governor Cuomo, we invite you, come over to our communities and listen and see what people are demanding for marijuana justice. So what do we want?
Justice!
When do we want it?
Now!
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Next I'm going to bring up Pilar de Jesus from Jaime Madre Worker Cooperative.
When I say marijuana, you say justice. Marijuana?
Justice!
Marijuana?
Justice!
Marijuana?
Justice!
Good morning, my name is Pilar de Jesus. I'm from Jaime Madre, a women of color marijuana worker cooperative focused on the education and advocacy around the plant. And I'm here along with the rest of the coalition to continue to say we need marijuana justice. We need legalization. It's really disheartening, and I'm tired of being directly affected by this, harassed by the NYPD, because I choose medicine, a plant that helps me deal with the post-traumatic stress system that I deal with living in the communities, being harassed by NYPD, being harassed by landlords in the communities that are being rezoned. So we're being harassed by the police, we're being harassed by the landlords. Our communities are being targeted in so many ways, and we could fix this part of it. We could fix this, because as has been mentioned, this is a criminal justice issue. We need to stop putting people in jail for wanting to choose medicine to help them with their needs. It's not meant for us to be in prison. Prison does not help our folks. And I'm here to say we need to support worker cooperative, which this bill, MARTA, marijuana regulation taxation, includes. We need worker cooperatives. We need funding to support the incubator programs that support the worker cooperatives like Jaime Madre and other worker cooperatives that are really going to change the systems. And again, the elected officials, I think I also need to remind you, we are all voters. And this is a big election year coming up. And I'm tired of the politics. The politics, I've had it. We need to make sure that this year we do what's right for those people who are in prison while other people are making a lot of money. We need to really make sure that the communities that have been directly affected, like East Harlem, the Bronx, Washington Heights, and Brooklyn, they need to have community reinvestment. We need true restorative justice where those people who are in prison can come out to real low-income housing, because I don't use that word affordable because that doesn't exist in this city. There's too many people paying a lot of money for housing and then being criminalized because they choose medicine. And I think you elected officials really need to take note to what's happening in our communities. We're being harmed every day. You can't, right now, yesterday I witnessed a teenager be ticketed because of invasion, a fair invasion. Even after I asked the officer to let me swipe her, he chose to give her a ticket instead. This is the problem. Only brown and black people are being targeted when it comes to marijuana, when it comes to housing, when it comes to everything, when it comes to employment. It's a target against us, and it needs to end, and this is one way to end that. As you saw, as it was mentioned, the Judicial Committee has just voted on a federal level because they recognize this is BS. It needs to end now, and again, I'm here to support that put this pressure on Governor Cuomo and all the elected and city officials. State and city officials, federal officials, we need it passed both state and federally. It has to stop. Thank you.
Thank you, Pilar. So next we want to bring up Rayblen Vargas from Green Worker Cooperative.
Hello, my name is Rayblen Vargas. I'm the advocacy coordinator for Green Worker Cooperatives. And basically, there's been a lot of talk about how is it that we're going to have directly impacted people like me, like Pilar, like everybody that's here, gain access and entry into this industry. And I like to just announce that, you know, I really want to thank Bronx Borough President Ruben Diaz for taking a shot and supporting the initiative to finance local community development financial institutions, creating a plan that's going to help put investment into the institutions that will help people like us enter this industry. So he recently asked our recommendations to coincide with New York's eventual legalization. And I'm very glad that Ruben Diaz took leadership on this, because out of the top 10 neighborhoods most directly impacted by marijuana legalization, 5 of those communities are just in the Bronx. And so I am very, very happy that he took that step to talk about how the Bronx is ready to start working with the state in supporting marijuana legalization. And by following his proposal, New York can be a leader in disrupting the enforcement practices that have selectively target our communities. And also, DS's plan include community reinvestment, which is basically, he's also amplifying our position for community investment in how money can re-enter the community. Specifically for us in the state legislature, MRTA, we're very proud that we were able to include a cooperative license, which allows people like us to pool our resources, train ourselves, take out low interest loans with CDFIs and credit unions in our communities, and launch our businesses. We can afford to get the marijuana license in our community through the cooperative license. And that is something that I'm very, very happy that we were able to put into the bill last session, and we hope to amplify that message and continue to develop the economic frameworks, the training, the expertise, because all of us are experts now. And we should be able to get paid for our expertise. We should be able to enter into this market. We should be able to profit legally and lift our communities, because co-op dollars stays in the community. It does not get invested elsewhere. It does not go into no fake fund in the Cayman Islands. It stays back. Our co-op dollars goes into continue supporting local businesses. So we're talking about increasing a tax base. Cooperative licenses are not only going to lift people directly impacted by these racist war on drugs, but it's going to lift that community up in general. So you know how they say, when the water rises, all boats go up with it. That's what a cooperative license is going to do for this legislation. And I really want to thank all the legislators for supporting this initiative. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good shit.
And our final speaker, Imani Dawson.
Thank you.
My name is Imani. I am a East New York, Brooklyn native. I am a community activist, and I am someone who was a child of the drug war. I remember crack. I remember the criminalization of my community, and I'm here because we have an opportunity to restore places like East New York, where I grew up. We have legislators that are on the ground, State Senator Liz Kruger, Majority Leader Crystal Peoples-Stokes have really laid the groundwork for legalization that's rooted in economic justice and social justice. And I'm here because our communities deserve a real shot, because they have been criminalized, because we've lost members of our community, because it's been used as a tool of suppression, and now we deserve restoration. The governor is talking a great game. He talked about wanting to restore communities most harmed and to implement social justice. Well, State Senator Kruger and Majority Leader Crystal Peoples-Stokes have laid out a framework. And as he comes to the table for legalization in 2020, we want him to use the model that they've worked on for close to a decade. We want our communities to actually have money set aside so it isn't just a token gesture, that there can really be restoration both for individuals who are harmed and our communities. So we are here demanding justice. 2020 is a big year. Our elected officials, you're on notice. We will vote you out if you don't support real legalization rooted in justice. Thank you.
Thank you. So, in closing, I just want to add to Imani's point. Make no mistake that this is an incredibly political issue that has all manner of racialized factors at play. We did not win last year because we could not agree in the state legislature where tax revenue generated from sales of legalized marijuana would ultimately end up. Start Smart New York, Liz Kruger, Crystal Peoples-Stokes, and countless supporters said we need to restore the harms that we've caused through this racist drug war. We need to make sure that people have the opportunity and the space to participate in a market that was built on their suffering. And that didn't happen because Governor Cuomo, and I'm speaking for myself, does not respect black people enough to center us in this conversation. He does not respect Latin people enough to center them in this conversation. Why then is this administration, his staff, overwhelmingly Republican? We need to ask ourselves these questions. What is really happening with Governor Cuomo? And why is he not prioritizing the passage of the MRTA with robust, racially sensitive, class-sensitive community reinvestments that remembers the legacies, the complexities of the racist and classist drug war? And he is, again, on notice. So in 2020, if Governor Cuomo is the man that he says that he is, if he is in fact the left, he will pass this bill on day one. Yeah. Thank you for being here. We can go home, y'all. What do we want?
Justice!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Justice!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Justice!
When do we want it?
Now!
And if we don't get it?
Shut it down!
And if we don't get it?
Shut it down!
And if we don't get it?
Shut it down!
And if we don't get it?
Shut it down!
Okay, thank you.
Happy birthday, Joanna.